artists are mediums. So I'm a car medium. So I see what people drive. I see what their tastes are. I see what their boots they're wearing. I'm taking in all of these cues all the time.
Yeah.
So people like me are just kind of like, we're listening as it is.
I'm Ashley Chitwood. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for wyotech, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Bryan Fuller, custom car, custom bike builder. I've got a shop in Atlanta, Georgia, Fuller Moto, where we do entertaining vehicles that, inspire people. We're basically just, clients come along with an FJ or a crazy motorcycle and, we build their dreams.
That's fun. So before we get into all the fun stuff that you're doing now, can we kind of take a walk down memory lane and walk me through the process of how you found wyotech? Like, were you living in Wyoming? Were you living somewhere else? And then how did you get here?
So I was a small town East Texas boy.
Okay.
And went to college. So I got like a pre-med degree. I was going to be a chiropractor. I was working on my 50 Plymouth chop top in the home garage. And, my dad had passed away. My mom was like, look, we didn't put you through pre-med, for you to work on your car and wait tables.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So she
Mom.
was like, you got to get a job. So I got a chemical sales job and spent every day after about 2 weeks, just like, what am I doing with my life? I was wearing like a suit, I had to have the haircut and, like the other people have like normal cars in the parking lot, and I'm driving a chop top with a seat that's not even bolted down. So when you hit the throttle, the thing's like goes back. I'm like, something is just not meshing up.
Right.
So, I was kind of just trying to figure it out, and I'd heard about wyotech back then had a street rod program. And so I called him up and I, looked at it and I was like, you know what? I called my mom up and I'm like, I'm going to a tech school. I'm moving to Wyoming. I'd never left Texas before to live. Mm-hmm. And so really just, chase the dream. And, that was 30 years ago. And it's just been a complete different world of my life since.
Yeah. I mean, pre-med, the pathway for that in trade school, you couldn't talk about polar opposites. Yep. So, you followed your passion.
Yep.
What was mom's reaction when you decided to come to trade school?
It's so ridiculous. She was like, we always thought you should do something with your hands. And I'm like, so you pushed me into med school.
Yeah. Hard operation, turning wrenches.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's just what they did. And then, today it's just finally changing where, I'm one of the few people who have had a college education and also a tech school program. And I came out of college and nobody wanted me. I mean, I could basically go back to school, go sit in a lab or go do sales. Like that was my 3 paths. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted me. And then I came out of 9 months at wyotech and bang, I could go anywhere in the world pretty much and work.
That's incredible.
Instantly. And, today it's the same way. Like as long as my hands and my eyes work, I never worry that I can get a job. There's always something that I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So, I mean, I'm interested in advice you would give to people today, right? Like it's a different world that we live in. I think there was a lot of the perception that we believe is changing, that the pathway to prosperity and success is a 4-year university pathway, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to go into pre-med, that's your pathway, right? But there's a lot shifting from our perspective here at wyotech of there's passion and prosperity and purpose to be had in going to trade school, and that this less than mentality of trades is actually trying to show its face. And I think COVID maybe perpetuated that when people are at home realizing how much they need plumbers and all these other, and these plumbers have, toys and all these other things. And it just brought a level of awareness. And so what is your thought on whether the perception or even the value of trade education in today's economy and market and the opportunities that you see in the future?
It's totally changing. And it's, it's so nice. When I first got out, like I was looked at as like a grease monkey. And then, car TV literally started when I got out of wyotech. I happened to be, in Southern California. I was at Chip Foosa's shop when overhauling came in. So I literally fell into the car TV world, and perception changed at that point and became like, oh, you're like a car artist. You know what I mean? You're like a kind of quirky, like shiny paint, lowered cars. Like people started to understand the kind of custom car culture. Mm-hmm. And once that started to propagate over the last 30 years, schools really just weren't delivering what they had promised. You couldn't just go into a university and get a job when you came out, just like I couldn't. Mm-hmm. And, now you can get all the information you need is on your phone. So it's just a different world than it was. Like you needed somebody to teach you 20, 30, 100, 200, 500 thousands of years ago. Mm-hmm. Someone had to train you.
Yep.
Today, you can pull out your phone and go, how do I do whatever it is? And it's right there. So why would you spend, $500,000 going into debt when all that knowledge that you'll ever need is in your phone? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does like the foundation, wyotech, we train entry-level technicians, right? We're introducing people into this. Some people come with some level of understanding. They worked with their dad or uncle or whoever in a garage, and they come here and kind of get those basics. So, what value do you see in coming here to get that entry-level training?
Well, I think, in any path, that's why I came here, was to mm-hmm. get the basics.
Yep.
Because I was building this car in my garage. My dad had been building things in front of me, but, I'd been sawing wood since I was a kid. My dad was a woodworker as a hobby. And so I was always like, I knew what a wrench was. I knew what screwdrivers were. Right. I'd been cutting and putting things together my whole life, but I had zero training for real. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when I was building this car on the side, it just became apparent that I've got to get some training. There's no way I can go into industry without some training. And so I came here, I learned to TIG weld, I learned to paint, I learned bodywork, I learned, kind of the basic mechanicals of a vehicle and kind of the basic theory of hot rodding, which really gave me a great foundation, like anybody should. Those foundations, and whether it's sports, basketball, football, any career path, right. That foundation is what you always go back to, and you can fall back on because it's mm-hmm. the right way to do it.
Right. So where did you find it in yourself? Because there's some personal responsibility in this, right? You come here, you get trained, you got to put in the work ethic, you got to show up, you got to take the education for what it's worth, right? Apply it.
Sure.
But then once you graduate, the options are unlimited, but you've been able to take your career in many different ways. You take your skill, your passion, your talent, and been able to grow something out of it. And so talk to me a little bit about, your thought process. Did you know exactly what you wanted to do when you graduated, or did you just happen to fall upon kind of where you've landed today? Like what has that looked like for you?
The dream for me was always, that's why I was, so passionate about it and why I worked so hard for 30 years is mm-hmm. that, I love it so much. My son's over there, he'll tell you, like, I spent the last 2 months on my own car, 7 days a week. If I wanted to, I got a great crew of pushing 10 guys. We used to be 20. Mm-hmm. I could probably pop in 2 hours in the morning, get the guys running, and I could probably be out of there by 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. and be gone for the day. But I'm there 7 days a week, the last 2 months, building this crazy Model T project. My hands were bleeding. I was just worn out, tired. For me, this was never a job. It was always like a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's just something I did, something I loved. And once I figured out that, like, not only is there a career path for this where I can get paid to do the art that I love anyway.
Yeah.
And just by chance and by extension, I learned plumbing and I learned electrical and I learned welding and I learned fabrication and I mm-hmm. learned all of these different trades that are all within this funky custom car world, where now I'm like, 20-year career, 30-year career, 20 years on my own, that I'm like, I finally told my family, I was like, you know what? I did it. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work out and I just decide to go, be a maintenance guy at the university across the street, then that's not a bad life.
Right. Yeah. So what was that transition for you from, working for another company and then making the decision to go out on your own? Like, was there fear? Was it like, nope, I was ready to go and I had nothing holding me back and I was ready to go? Or were you kind of nervous walking into that? Like, where was that shift for you?
I was working for Chip Foose, who's like legendary car builder in Los Angeles. My wife and I were trying to like find a place to live in Southern California, and her sister lives in Atlanta. So my brother-in-law made me an offer to like give me a little 600 square feet. But my dad owned a pharmacy. He was a carpenter, and he had kind of brainwashed me. And I don't know if he was just doing it because he knew me or if it was bullshit. I mean, at this point, I have no idea. But he had always told me that Fullers don't work for other people. Like, we are entrepreneurs. We should have our own business. And it's pretty cool. Like, I'm kind of like the first of the last few generations. My grandfather had like a small kind of lawnmower repair shop. He was an electrician eventually for like a big company. My dad wanted to be a carpenter, wanted to do all this kind of like construction stuff, but he eventually always went back to pharmacy because it was just a better business. And of course, like a Kroger or whatever bought his pharmacy out because, that's just America.
Yeah.
So I'm really kind of the first one of the lineage that I know of who kind of took this trade and actually has made a 30-year career out of it. So that gives me pride and it motivates me, and you know what I mean, to make it work.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, knowing that, I have a feeling there's probably countless moments like this, but can you recall moments in the last 30 years where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe that this is my job?
I mean, probably my favorite, one of my favorite stories is when I was in my home garage with the 50 Plymouth that I was building, came to wyotech, went to LA, and the only poster that I had was the ZZ Top Copperhead. Now I'm to the age now I have to tell people what ZZ Top was.
ZZ Top?
It was a band, and they had these super cool cars, and it was like something that got me inspired.
Yeah.
And so the ZZ Top Copperhead was a famous 50 Ford Custom that was amazing. And the guys that I moved in with, and just my very first job I was interning with, built that car. And so it was the only poster in my home garage. I'm sitting here on the table that I just built that I'm going to be working in, and the actual car is right there. And literally for the last 30 years, you can ask my wife, she's like, I've never seen anybody just flow through life like when I went on this path, because I'm just on the right path. You know what I mean? Yep. And I trust in it. I don't question it one bit. Like if the river tells me like we need to move to California or move to Texas, and we move to Texas. And, I've followed that for the last 30 years. And it's just been crazy how my life has opened up.
Yeah. Would you call that intuition?
I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's whatever it is, it comes from the universe. You could, the Indians would have called it from the creator. And, if you're a Buddhist, you would say Buddha. And if you're Christian, you would say Jesus. And, I don't know where the hell it comes from.
Yeah.
But, it's there. Like whatever it is, I just listen to it. I follow it. And it's been crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this is getting deep, I suppose, but I think it's really important. I think that regardless where it comes from, right? Like you just said, it could, whatever that is to you, how do you pay attention to it? Because you've obviously leaned into it. You said it feels natural. You flow with it. If the river says, go to California, you go to California. But how would you tell the thousands of young kids, especially, what does that feel like? What does that look like? When do you know when you're not in flow? Like, have you experienced that?
Well, you have to take a minute. I think, these devices that we've thrown into our life are, you have to take a break. You have to go walk in the woods.
Yep.
You have to take a minute and look around and listen to what, the universe is telling you. And if you just every waking moment that you've got a second if you just go back into another distraction or another place or another world that's in your phone, you're never going to be able to listen to whatever that force is that's talking to you. And, I'm an artist, people that know me know I'm looking around. I'm like, how's that made? What are the screws? Like, what color did they use? We're just artists are mediums. So I'm a car medium. So I see what people drive. I see what their tastes are. I see what their boots they're wearing. I'm taking in all of these cues all the time.
Yeah.
So people like me are just kind of like, we're listening as it is. We're watching, we're listening, we're seeing what the trends are. And so that's really, by nature, we're already like that.
Yeah. I really like that. Car medium. I think you need to like add that to your business card. I see ways that could make an impact. I want to talk more about, the next generation coming in and, how you found out about wyotech and you talk about how much has changed. We hear, as you kind of, I guess I'm aging myself, but you kind of hear, well, when I was doing this or 20 years ago,
Yep.
It doesn't matter how old you get, there's always the next generation that's going to say stuff like that. But you have, you had Hot Rod TV, you had, Street Rod Magazine, which was more, probably how people found out about us 20, 30 years ago. Today, the kids that are the age coming to school here, they're not watching network television like we did to get the message out. They're being influenced. You kind of talked about it. You're in your screen and you're being told, go to trade school, don't go to trade school. This school is good, this school is bad. If you turn out this way, you're bad. If you go this path, you're good. How would you guide a younger generation with all this noise as to how to follow a path?
I know for me personally, when I'm thinking about what my, next goals are, my next, ambitions, I do a thing that's called the woods. So I go to the woods. So anytime I just feel like I'm lost, I'm in trouble, or it's like January 1st, depending on which one of those is. I go to the woods. Yeah. I take paper. I know, again, dating myself, paper. But I go out there, what's gone well, what's kind of going bad, what do I like that I've done, what do I not like about myself? And then I'm charting the next 5 years. So I'm like, okay, this year I want to build a car from scratch. And we just built this full crazy body of scratch. I want to work with my peers who, are kind of like guys that I really respect. It's fun to come to wyotech and it's fun to see kids learning to grind, but I'm a 55-year-old guy, like 54 years old. I don't really want to teach somebody to run a grinder anymore. I want to advance not only myself, but other people within my level of expertise before my hands and my eyes give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to really maximize this last part of my, craftsman's legacy or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you just have to listen to your voice. You have to trust that, if your path is to go be a mechanic, then go be a mechanic. And if it doesn't work, go try something else, especially when you're young. Just go try it. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's your life for you to decide, not your parents, not your friends. It's your life. And you have to make sure that what you pick is the right path.
Yeah. I think that's such a strong statement. We could probably end it there, but I have more questions about where you're at today. So how do people get to follow you and follow your career path and the stuff that you're doing? I mean, there's a lot of notoriety in the stuff that you're doing. Your name's brought up all the time, especially with our alumni who have had the opportunity to cross paths with you. So how do we get to follow you and kind of see what you're up to?
I'm probably the most involved on Instagram.
Okay.
At Fuller Moto. We're also a website, of course, is Fuller Moto. We're trying to get more into YouTube. So we're starting to post more on YouTube because I'm transitioning from kind of like network TV into YouTube more. Should have done it 20 years ago. But that's also Fuller Moto. So it's all pretty much geared to that. Okay.
Any interest in TikTok? I'm getting all of our Hall of Famers. I'm challenging them to start their TikToks.
Yeah. I personally, I'm just... My son, my family is, pushing me into, my advisors push me into TikTok. But at the end of the day, like my focus is really on building high-end vehicles and my customers. Yep. And they're a needle in a haystack. There's just not that many people that will spend the amount of money it takes for us to build a high-end vehicle like we do. So, and they're 50 to 70. They're not usually on TikTok.
Nope, it's follow your intuition. And you're right. It's the same thing when I was talking earlier about how you found out about wyotech. Our future generation, they're in a different place. And, I think that's just the fascinating part of what we do. But, well, thank you so much for joining us and talking about how you've arrived at this point. And hopefully we'll do more chatting in the future. It's been a fun ride. Awesome. Thank you.